Amidst the debate about what to call the government-run migrant detention facilities comes a horrifying news story from the AP today. Lawyers interviewed more than 60 children at a border patrol station, someplace they should be held for a maximum of 72 hours, and what they heard was truly awful. Quote, 3 girls, ages 10 to 15, said they had been taking turns keeping watch over a sick 2-year-old boy because there was no one else to look after him. When the lawyers saw the 2-year-old boy, he wasn't wearing a diaper and wet his pants, and his shirt was smeared with mucus. Children told lawyers they were fed uncooked frozen food or rice and had gone weeks without bathing or a clean change of clothes at the facility. Now, you may think one facility just fell through the cracks, but it's actually worse than that because, in fact, the government, our government, is now arguing that it doesn't need to provide things like toothbrushes or even soap. Right now, detention of migrant children is guided by a legal agreement called the Flores Settlement. And Donald Trump has been railing against that agreement and trying to get out of it because it requires minimal standards of care for children in U.S. custody. Tuesday, a government lawyer argued before a 3-judge panel over the level of care that was required and shocked judges by suggesting what was not needed.
Are you really going to stand up and tell us that being able to sleep isn't a question of safe and sanitary conditions? You can't be safe and sanitary or safe as a human being if you can't sleep. Well, and you said in your briefs it doesn't say anything about sleeping, so therefore there's nothing in here about being able to sleep.
I think the concern there is, Your Honor, the court finding that sleep, for example, is relevant to a finding of no safe and sanitary conditions is one thing, but the ultimate conclusion is safe and sanitary is a singular category in the agreement, and it was one has to assume left that way and not enumerated by the parties because either the parties couldn't reach agreement on how to enumerate that, or that it was left to the agencies to determine.
Or it was relatively obvious, and it's at least obvious enough so that if you're putting people into a crowded room to sleep on a concrete floor with an aluminum foil blanket on top of them, that doesn't comply with the agreement. I mean, it may be that they don't get super thread counts Egyptian linens, I get that, but the testimony that the district judge believed was it's really cold. In fact, it gets colder when we complain about it being cold. We're supposed to sleep crowded with the lights on all night long, and all you do put us on is the concrete floor with an aluminum blanket. I mean, I understand at some outer boundary there may be some definitional difficulty, but no one would argue that this is secure and sanitary, safe and sanitary.
Which is your strongest argument then?
Well, I mean, I think what I would go to is when you start enumerating, for example, specific hygiene items, and the way that was done is that the court sort of enumerated these and say these fall under the rubric, these fall in the category of what could be required.
Again, it wasn't perfume soap, it was soap. It wasn't, high-class milled soap, it was soap.
It's within everybody's common understanding that, if you don't have a toothbrush, if you don't have soap, if you don't have a blanket, it's not safe and sanitary. Wouldn't everybody agree to that? Do you agree to that?
Well, I think there's fair reason to find that those things may be part of safe and sanitary.
Maybe are a part. What do you say maybe? You mean there are circumstances when a person doesn't need to have a toothbrush, toothpaste, and soap for days?
Well, I think in CBP custody, it's frequently intended to be much shorter term. So it may be that for a shorter term stay in CBP custody that some of those things may not be required.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the situation that the court was confronting. I mean, it wasn't as though those people were there for 12 hours and then moved on to the Hilton Hotel. No, they were there for a fairly sustained period, and at least according to the evidence that the judge believed, they weren't getting these things for a fairly sustained period.
All right, so call the facilities where this is happening whatever you want, but arguing that children don't need to be provided beds or soap is, well, nothing short of deplorable.